Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about what you need as an astrologer in business when you're working with clients. Hi, I'm Alison Price. When you start working with clients, there's various bits of information that you need before you can even cast their chart. And not only that, when you're actually going into business as an astrologer, you do need to maintain your paperwork and keep some records about your clients as well. So over the years, I've developed a client information sheet, and this is the sheet that I give to every single person who wants to have a consultation with me or anyone who wants to take a class with me as well. And it's because I'm in business, and that's why we do it. It's not just a casual reading. I'm not just saying, oh, give me your birth details, I'll knock up your chart. This is professional, this is where they're paying for the services, and these are the bits of information you need if you are an astrologer in business before you work with clients. So what I will do is, if someone contacts me and is inquiring about having a reading or wants to do a class or something, I will send them an email copy of this client information sheet. They will print it out, complete it, scan it, send it back to me, or just e-send it back to me. But all the information has to be completed before I will start doing the work for them for the chart, and also before I will schedule their first lesson. This is information that is required by me before I can start working with clients. So most of it's pretty straightforward. We just want some contact information, but let's just go through it. So the first thing you're going to need is the name. Now, you will receive an email from 267widget@gmail.com, and they'll call themselves Bob. And it really doesn't matter what their real name is, your client, but you do want to know what name you're going to place onto the chart, because you will be sending a copy of the chart to your client afterwards. So if they want to go as Bob Green, that's fine, or if they want to go as Robert Green, that's fine. But this is specifically the name they're going to be using when you're chatting with them and when you actually print it on their chart. It doesn't really matter if it's not their name. People are quite happy to keep with their anonymity if they want to. Second thing clearly is going to be the email address. You've probably got it already, but you may not. If you met someone out at a social event and they say, oh, can you do me my chart? They need to email you, so you want to capture their email address on your client information sheet as well. Also, as an astrologer, if you're doing readings out at a conference or you have a table somewhere and you're doing on-the-spot readings, you still need to get their email address so you can follow up and send their chart details to them afterwards. The third piece of information is pretty straightforward. It's their phone number. And why is this? I'm not going to be calling you. I won't be phoning you on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. and wake you up and say, hey, what about this or that? The idea of having a phone number is that if we are in a consultation, which is typically on Skype, online, and for some reason the connection is broken, I would be able to text you directly. Also, if you want to make a cancellation at the last minute for your actual consultation or for your class, you can straightforwardly just text me straight on that number. And that's the only reason I actually use the phone number. The next piece of information I will require is your Skype name. This could be anything. I do my consultations over Skype, and I also teach my classes over Skype, and I need to know what your Skype name is so that I can make contact with you. Typically, I will ask you to send me a contact request on Skype to my Skype name, which is Starzology, so that we can connect on the day of the actual session. Some people who come for a reading don't necessarily have Skype already, so they've got to get someone to help them set it up, and then they finally get their Skype together, and then when they've created their Skype name, they need to send me a contact request over Skype to Starzology so we can connect on the day for the reading. One of the optional things I do ask for is a physical address. That's your mailing address, 123 Main Street, any town or whatever. And the only reason I capture this information is if I'm going to be sending you a birthday card, which sometimes happens, or a happy solstice card, which sometimes happens. This is totally optional, and in this day and age, you don't need to put your address if you don't want to. However, if you are local, most people do. So the next thing I'm looking for on my client information sheet is if you were referred to me by somebody else. And by this I mean, maybe you were out somewhere and your friend said, hey, you should get a reading with Alison, she was great. I'm hoping that's what they're saying. And they will say, oh yes, let me contact her. You will say, here's your contact details, and then the person will then email me, and on the referral spot they would say, Joan Smith referred me to you, and that is something I want to know. I want to know who is making referrals for me, because I can then follow up with them afterwards with a thank you note, contact them and let them know how much I appreciate them referring their friends and family to me as their astrologer. It's a great thing to know as an astrologer that people are referring you, and that's where you found me as well. The other thing is that if you just found me on Google, I'd like to know that, or did you discover me perhaps at a meeting or one of these, a conference, an astrology conference or something like that. How did you find me? Because this is interesting for me so I can develop my business further as well. So now we're getting into the birth details. So the first thing I'll need from you is your birth time, and ideally it will be hours, minutes and seconds. Now typically most people don't have that. They generally know the hour and the minute, so you might say 5:30 p.m. or 10 past 12 or something like that. That is the typical times that people have for their birth times. Only if you're an astrologer like I am, when you have children, you get their birth time to the hour, the minute, the second. You get precise birth times, and that's a story for another day. If you don't have a birth time, you do need to tell me that as well. I don't want you to guess. I'd rather you said to me, we don't really know, but we think it was sometime in the afternoon, or we can't quite remember, it was sometime before midnight or something like that, because we need to then create a different type of chart for you. But this is not to say that if you don't have a birth time, we can't do a chart. We absolutely can. So the birth date, this is your birthday, 15th of June, 21st of July, whatever it is. And with any luck, you know what your birth date is. Most people do. And of course, the year you were born. Now, in all of my years of astrology, I've only come across one woman who did not know what year she was born, although she did have her birthday. I think she wasn't sure if it was 1970 or 1971, but she had the date. So then again, we had to calculate two charts and do a workaround. But you need to be honest with me about that. If you don't really know when your birth date is, let's hear about it. But if you do, most people do. You would just write it there where it says birth date. The next thing we're looking for is your birthplace, and typically it will be the village or the city you were born in. So you would say Toronto, Canada. That's quite straightforward. Or if you were, maybe a lot of people in England are born in little villages somewhere, Little Piddlington under Lyre in Worcestershire or something, that we need to know. Also, if you don't have the details, it's fine, but we do really need the city. If you've got the village, we'll take it. If you've got the city, we'll take it. And of course the state as well. To define some of these towns, like I know in America there are many Springfields in different states, and you need to specify exactly which state you're talking about if it's in the USA and other countries too. So the state, county or province is the actual region you were born in as well, and that will help us clarify and find the exact spot for you. I also ask on my client information sheet for the current city they're living in now, because most people really have moved. So if you were born in London and now you're living in Seattle, I need to know that, particularly if I'm doing forecasting for you. I need to know where are you located now. When I get an email in, it's never clear to me where someone is in the world, and that's the question there. Where are you living now? What city are you in now? Because then I can focus your astrology reading to that place as well. The next thing we are looking for is your birth data source, and that means who told you what time you were born? Who told you what your birthday was? And typically this will come from either a birth certificate or your mother's memory, and very often it's written in a baby book. Little Johnny was born at 3:32 p.m. and it's written in the little book. That's what I'd like to know. Where are you referencing this information? Ideally, we want to get the right information, and mother's memory is as good as mother's memory is, but if you have a certificate with the time on, that is excellent for astrology. One of the other questions I do ask is your birth time rectified? And if you don't even know what the question means, then the answer is no, it is not rectified. Rectification is a process that some astrologers will do to help people who don't know when their birth time is, readjust it to find them a birth time. So this may be for someone who's already been to another astrologer and had their birth time rectified because they thought it was 5 p.m. but the rectification came out at 5:07, and that I need to know as well. I need to know if the time was rectified. So if their answer is yes, that's one thing. But for most people the answer is no, because most people don't really get their charts rectified. So yeah. So in general the answer there would be no. And again, if you don't even understand the question, the answer is no, it's not rectified. You would know if you had your birth chart rectified. Then towards the bottom of the page, we are getting now to the acknowledgements, and I have a very specific acknowledgement that is placed that you're going to be signing against, and I'm just going to read it, and it says, I accept that astrology with Alison Price is to be considered for entertainment purposes only. This is a legal requirement for people who are astrologers and who work as astrologers in Canada. It has to be, you have to acknowledge that it is entertainment before you actually step forward. So we're finally getting to the actual signature bit. So you need to actually sign the form at the bottom. You're going to write your full name, the name you're using, sign the bottom and date it. Then you send the whole thing back to me. So generally that's pretty straightforward. It's just acknowledgement of all the information that you'll send me, because I do want a written copy of your birth data before I can proceed working on your chart. The only other condition here is that if you are a minor, and that means you are a child 17 years or younger, you do have to get your parents' permission, and they have to sign before I'll do their chart work as well. So even if you're paying, you still will, and you're 17 or under, you still need to get your parents to sign the form and send it off to me. So there it is. It's pretty straightforward. As a practicing astrologer, this is the information that I need from you before I do any work for you. And if you are an astrologer in your setting up practice, you need to consider creating a form similar to this for yourself, where you can capture the information about your clients before you actually move forward on their charts. It's part of a good business practice, and it helps you keep your records. When I receive a completed client information sheet back, I print it out, a physical copy, and I put it in the file for that client's birth charts. So all her charts, bits of information, everything, including this page, will remain with her charts in my files, in my records. So that's really all there is to it. It's a case of getting organized when you're an astrologer and not working off the back of an envelope. It's a way of being methodical. It really is just good business practice. It helps you get organized. It provides a professional look to your potential clients, and it helps astrology as well. If you're going to create a client information sheet, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to see more videos like this one. I'm Alison Price. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.